now. Okay, let's have some fun with this. And as we go along, please do ask questions, clarifications. All of you have been around. I don't see any newbies here. And so I'll discuss these things at that level and also ask questions at, detailed levels, as they come up for you. But what we are doing here is this great Kentucky Derby. How could we not get involved with the Kentucky Derby? We were involved many years ago, and it's always a fun, exciting kind of race. So what we're doing here is binary predictions, because the 1ARV at this point is really focused on doing just the binary predictions. We like having the near 50-50 propositions because it makes the stats easier. Also, you tend to get the positive feedback more often. And so in addition to the 1ARV, we are now focusing more and more, at least in my groups, with this wild card preview, WCP. And that's what we used here. So this will be a good example of that. What we are doing just by applying precognition is clearly in many people's minds, as the TED controversy showed, thinking outside the box. And so we indeed are doing that. This came off of Ion's Think Outside the Box, and I love these cartoonish things that make interesting points. I thought this one was quite clever. So that was kind of good. And we are on the path, and as I think you all know, APP's objective, one of its objective, is really to change society's kind of appreciation of the much bigger universe we live in, where consciousness is more fundamental. I personally think it is the fundamental, and everything else really arises out of that. And that is a major paradigm shift. Okay, let's just summarize briefly here what 1ARV is all about. And basically, we have two unitary predictions which are totally independent. That is the way to be thinking about it in terms of in principle. We have one where the association is between one coordinate, one side, in our case say odd versus even, but one side would be odd, and it ultimately is going to lead to a target. Now, the one side has associated with it an indicator photosite, which is only going to be shown if, in fact, that side wins. So if side 1 wins, you will see this indicator photosite. Period. It's that simple. Rachel, you're the newbie. Did you?
Yes,
Rachel,
I am.
Was that you who just arrived?
I just arrived. You got it.
Okay. Let me.
What? Oh, don't start over.
No, what I want to start over with for you is what this prediction technique is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to everybody else then for the repeat.
Okay. No, we were just here. The thing about 1ARV, and we're doing 1ARV with the wildcard preview, is that there is a unitary prediction which has associated with it one coordinate. The viewers do a transcript. You know, I know enough of your background that you understand the describe and sketch your feedback target. So that's sort of typical in remote viewing. That's what remote viewers do, describe and sketch their target in linear time. The target's going to come in the future. We have now two sides. In this example, we have odd and we have even. Let's say side 1 is odd. There will be an indicator photosite for that side. If, in fact, that side happens, you will see that indicator photo site, and we would expect all your great viewers to have really good transcripts which would talk about water and, you know, this kind of shape maybe and whatever. But we would get good matches for this because that's the target you're going to see and that's your job. So this is one unitary ARV prediction. That would be one. However, what we also do is we give a second coordinate which is associated with a second side, and you are going to get a second target. Now this side, say even, would have a different indicator photo site associated with it, and we would expect to get really good transcripts as judges associated with this, you know, hot, fire, red, stuff like that, if in fact this side occurs, because this is what you're going to get as feedback for that coordinate. So this is a second unitary ARV prediction, considered totally separate. That's the philosophy. And as a judge, we judge both coordinate 1 and coordinate 2. And what we expect with these two RV sessions is the following. The indicator photo site on the side that actually occurs, that actually happens, we call that a group target because all the viewers will get that target back and they will do feedback sessions on that target. So this leads to what we call coherence among the viewers. Since they're all getting back to the same target, I'm sitting here as a judge, I should be able to pick up which is the group target, and that'll be associated with the winning side. So that's the whole purpose of connecting one of the indicator photo sites with a group target. The other coordinate is now, what do you do with that? Remote viewers, well, in ARV anyway, they expect, and it's valuable, to get feedback. We want to give remote viewers feedback. It allows you to close out your transcript. So the other coordinate, the one that is not on the winning side, the other coordinate's target is what we call a wild card. Now that's different for each viewer, and so there's no coherence. And so as a judge, what you expect is to see no coherence, maybe just a certain amount of chance, and we just talked about that. Yes, you're going to get some hits, but you don't expect to see them as great as in the other coordinate. That's the philosophy. In this approach, what we did here, and the wildcard can be used in many ways, but what we're beginning to move to is either have the tasker, in this case which was me, to send out wildcards to each of the viewers right after I received their transcripts. And that's what we did here. Nancy, who's here, who actually started this, I think has the viewers do their own randomly after they finish their transcript.
Right.
One of the brand new things, which was just invented by Nancy maybe 6 months ago, Nancy? How far back does this go?
Oh, probably about 6 months,
Okay, with the preview was the idea that once the wild card is chosen, it is indeed a target. You don't know which coordinate it's associated with, but it is in fact a target. And so you can now give back to the viewers the request to take the wild card, whether they choose it themselves or whether I give it to them. In this case, I gave it to them after receiving the transcripts and sending it off to the judges. You can now ask them to make a prediction of which one of the wild cards they believe best matches their transcripts, because they supply 2 transcripts. and it indeed will be a match for one of the two coordinates. That's what wildcard preview is all about. Now, in this case, as a tasker, I had randomly chosen two coordinates. I associated odd with 834027. I associated even with 124837. These were the coordinates without the odd and even. Just these coordinates were sent out to the viewers. And I'm going to show you the indicator photo site shortly. Are there any viewers here?
I am.
Okay, so you'll have to decide if you want to stay or not, and I have, and I'll tell you when I'm about to show it. So
Okay.
you can decide if you want to have that, in the mix or not. And then the target at this point we don't know, right? The target to be decided once the outcome is known is either going to be IPS1, this one, if in fact odd wins, or it'll be the wildcard target. For the even, it's the exact same thing but reverse. If this even turns out to be the outcome, then what's IPS2 will be the group target if even wins, or the wildcard target will be associated with that coordinate. Now, the match, notice we talk about getting a good match with either a group match with either the IPS for one coordinate or the other. We are using Russell Targ's confidence ranking scale. And I wanted to talk about that also with all of your old-timers, and I'm really glad you're here, Alexis, because this has to do with your system as well. This is his confidence system. There are others. Some people use a 1 to 4 scale. There are different kinds of scales that you can use. Some people might simply want to use, yes, this is the good match, the other one is not a good match. So there are different ways to do this. We are using this scale. Notice 0 basically says no correspondence at all. 1 is little correspondence. 2, you're suggesting that this might be chance. You don't see anything really particularly strong, but yeah, you get some matches. Again, we were talking about this, maybe a third of the time you might expect to get, some reasonable matches of one sort or another. By the time you get to a confidence ranking, a CR of 3, you now have a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough correct elements that you're saying, you know what, I think the viewer might actually have made contact, psychic precognitive contact with the feedback target. That's a 3. A 4 says good correspondence with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. Okay? Good correspondence, several matchable elements. Now basically you're saying this is not chance. I feel very comfortable that I am looking at the feedback target. I am willing to wager with a 4. And in fact, experience has shown us, and we take the point of view that we want you to be past the 3, up. We'd prefer 4s and above, of course, but if somebody puts in a confidence ranking of 3.5, we're saying that's wagerable. And that's an important number. And as a judge, we are now really communicating with each other. This is not really a linear scale. But when you see a 3.5 or above, that says the judge believes this is wagerable. Definitely in the psychic regime. Now, a 5 says good correspondence, and this is the key words here: unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. That's pretty strong. unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. A sketch that captures the essence of the target. Enough words that, gee, it must really be in an unambiguous way referring to the sailboat. That sort of thing. So those are key words. When I see a 5, I almost always go back to the judge and, okay, tell me, what was unambiguous, unique, and matchable? Okay? That's what a 5 means.
Can't hear anything now.
Okay? That's a 5. A 6 goes to the next step, and it says good correspondence with good AOLs, good analytical information, naming the function of the target, naming the target itself, saying sailboat, okay, and relatively little incorrect information. And then a 7 is sort of dead on. It's got the AOL and essentially no incorrect information. So notice there's a jump here to bringing in the AOLs, and that's why it's not analytical. And Alexis, I don't think you do that. I just wanted to clarify that, right? You pretty much make this a linear scale?
Not exactly. It's more mainly on how do I say? I guess mine is more like a filtering scale.
Okay.
But it's not. It doesn't calculate linearly. There's like jumps that you have to go through. For example, if to get a CR3, if the spreadsheet calculates that you are not more than 50% accurate, the highest you can get is a 2.
Okay.
And for like to get a CR7, for example, it won't allow you to get a 7 if your matching percent is less than like 90%.
Okay, but you don't have an AOL per se.
No, not really. Not.
I mean, so if a person had, understand me, I'm not being critical, but I want to understand, because I look at this stuff really being sort of like bridge. What you're really doing is communicating the meaning. But the way you communicate meaning in your system, whether it's called Dung Beetle or not, is if I had 10 words and all 10 were correct, you would give this a 7, even though there might not be anything we'd call an AOL.
No, it would not give it. Like, there's a variable that you have that the judges have to enter. That it asks how what's the quality, what's the highest quality perception in the session. For example, if the highest quality was only basic, then you can't get higher than a 1. But if there's like if a single perception is like complex, then it allows you to get a higher score, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a higher score.
But it permits you, so it's a ceiling. So complex, is that the highest level?
The highest level is explicit. So if the target was a plane, and in the viewer says specifically plane, the judge will then put on the spreadsheet the highest level of data in the session. There was an explicit data in the session.
Well, okay,
so,
that's AOL.
Right. Then it allows it then allows the system to give a higher rating, but it doesn't give them the higher rating if their percentages don't make sense. Like if the percentage is 50%, even though the viewer said plain, the highest it can get is a 3 based on my system.
I love it. I'm really glad I asked. I hope everybody else appreciates this, because what Alexis is putting together is something which goes on a spreadsheet, and maybe we'll even have time to show it, an example of it, where you are coming pretty close to this then, because you're saying explicit, I'm calling that AOLs. If someone didn't say plain, but they said flying contraption, I have a feeling the judge would call that explicit, and then depending on how well everything else was. So I'm very pleased with that, Alexis. That's the first time I've heard you say that out loud.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably written there someplace, but I haven't studied it. So that's excellent. So this is the system with the TAR confidence level that we're using. And before I go and show you the spreadsheet, which now has all of them, I want to tell you, and I just don't feel I can say this enough, but the more I've been into analysis judging, the more I appreciate the value of it, both personally, because you understand so much about not only consciousness in general, but your own consciousness, that I really encourage everybody to get into it at some point in their precognitive journey. Because what analysis judging is not, and this is something which those of us who have been doing this learn, is it's not something like this. Here's a skeptic's viewpoint. I alone know the contents of this envelope. It's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. So there's our remote viewer, and that's what came to him. And then the judge, the skeptical judge, says, "Nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine." You got to give consciousness, which filters up from the deepest levels of reality, right? You're going from your future feedback photo site to your present time remote viewing journey. Give it a little room to be off a little bit. And how much is the art of judging? It's not purely intellectual. There are judgments that have to be made, period. And ultimately those judgments will come down to a confidence ranking, and how you get that is up to each judge. And some use a system like Alexis. Others, I do a lot of marking up on transcripts. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Sorry, was Alexis asking one too? I couldn't tell. You mentioned several times when you were talking about the TARG's confidence ranking page, AOL, and
right.
I was thinking AOL. Could you tell us what you think? I mean, what when you say AOL, what do you mean by that?
Okay, AOL, analytical overlay, is when the intellect gets involved. The example that I remember hearing way back when is, "Oh, I'm getting red, I'm getting round. Basketball." And the leap to basketball was done by the intellect, just because maybe that person was very much connected, played basketball yesterday, liked basketball games. But it's a leap where, as a viewer, one of the things you try to learn is when the information is coming from your intellect, from your ego, physical self, as opposed to this deeper subconscious self that was connected with the feedback target. And it's learning this subtle difference between getting the information sort of bubbling up from the subconscious as opposed to the intellect jumping that is really maybe the key skill.
If I'm a viewer and I write a list of AOLs on the side, and if I'm conscious enough, I write AOL next to it so that the judge can see that.
Right.
So I have a bunch of AOLs that I've marked on my paper as a viewer.
Right.
What I think I heard you say a minute ago, and this is what I need clarification on, is that if something is a 6 or a 7, then you bring in AOLs. If there's AOL marked there that's right on, do you not look at that unless everything else is good, or tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, and I think everybody does it a little different. The rule about AOLs is they're unreliable, and sometimes they're right on.
Yeah.
Now, that vagueness is built into the AOL. You see what I'm saying? In other words, the very fact that the person thought it came from the intellect side doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, but it becomes a bit more unreliable than the stuff which you think comes from the depths of your subconscious. And that's all you can say about it. Now, me as a judge, the way I do it is I look at every single AOL, and if they're right on, I circle it really big and round, and I give it extra credit. So I love the AOLs when someone names something and it turns out to be right. But on the other hand, I get some transcripts with so many AOLs that then I have to downgrade it. And that's why they call this analysis judging. And
so if there are lots of AOLs and they're marked, but they're not right, you do mark them down, or do you only?
No, I tend to ignore them, but I notice that the person is just giving me a lot of them. That's me as a judge. And so if one of them turns out to be really right on, I wouldn't make it as strong as a person who gave me a transcript that only had 2 AOLs and one of them was right on.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Because we've really just gone through everything. I'm about to now show the I'm about to now show the Excel spreadsheet. So, Teresa, you want to stay?
I don't know. John, are you and Lorraine staying or going?
Well, are you going to show us the pictures too, Marty, or just the scores?
The pictures are going to come up. I could maybe not do that at first, but the words, will sort of give away away a lot. I think the key thing is I am personally okay with it as long as we don't add too much emotion to it. The key to me is not being particularly emotional. I mean, it turns out I believe emotion has a lot to do with a lot of this stuff, including displacement. So I have no problem with you guys staying. You have to.
I'm going to sign off just for this particular one.
Okay,
so
and I would say give me. It's now 2:30. We'll probably talk about this. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a half an hour, but why don't you give me 20 minutes and then come on back on. The other choice is you can turn off your screen and not look at it, but listen to the words or whatever. Well, why don't you give us 20 minutes and come on back?
Okay.
Bye. Maybe. Okay. Bye.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. So let me bring this over. And so here was the coordinate associated with odd. What you're now looking at is the way I, as an analyst judge, as an AJer, typically does my judging. The difference is I did not judge most of these. I just put things down. It turned out Deborah came in a little late because she was doing other things, so I judged hers, and Alexis judged hers using his. We need to come up with a name, but for now I'll still call it Dung Beetle.
Okay.
But we need a shortcut name for that. And so I want to go over this. I want you to understand it because I'm hoping that more of you will come up with your own approaches or adapt an approach like this. Now, this is a spreadsheet. It's really done for me as a judge. I try to maximize my capabilities as a judge with multiple viewers. So here's the coordinate. Here's the odd even. This line, which I always put in yellow, is the main line. It's got, this obviously is wrong, so that's an old one already. So, so this is the special webinar here. So this is the saddle cloth. I do a lot of copying and pasting, as you see. So this is the saddle cloth race. So the title of the race goes there. And then ultimately, we are going to put the prediction on this line. In fact, when we finish our discussion, hopefully in the next 20 minutes or so, we will have a ranking for the first odd coordinate, and we'll have a ranking for the second one. So that's what goes on the yellow with the group prediction. We will be putting here either odd or even. And then when everything is done, okay, when the race is over, we will put here whether it's a hit, a sidekick, or a pass. And I have all of my previous stuff of above here. Okay, so this is, and I have all of my other groups. I'm doing 5 groups, and all of them are on this one spreadsheet. So now let's just focus on this one. The way I start this is I had this random coordinate, randomly associated with odd, and then I chose a IPS. So you're now seeing for the first time the indicator photo site that was associated with this. So all of the judges were given this coordinate, and they were then given this photo site and asked to do on the TARG scale the judging. What you see here is for Slory, their confidence rankings on that scale. So 2.5, 3.7, 1, and a 4. Okay? Here, wild card preview. I sent to Slory a wild card preview picture. And I think I have it here. This is the one I sent him, and I have them for everybody, and they're all different. He or she, I don't actually know if Slory is a he or she. That's an unusual name. And this is the first time that Per Slory has interacted with us, but Slory gave back as a wild card preview, comparing the 2 transcripts that were submitted to that picture, and gave that a 5. Okay? So this comes right from the email sent back. I copy and paste it. And notice now the wild card match of a 5 was for the other coordinate. So what does that mean? That means it supports this coordinate as being the actualized side. So in Slory's case, giving it a 5, it supports 834027. You understand that? So that's why on my spreadsheet I put it up here, because I'm interested in making a final prediction on whether or not it's going to be odd or even. Okay, and then what I then did is I looked at all these numbers, And as a judge, I said, just looking at Slory's stuff, I would say, oh, well, that's a 5. Now, I don't know well enough whether or not it was unambiguous and all that, and I struggled over whether this should be a 3.25 or 3.5, but I made it a 3.5, so that's what I did. But there's always struggling that goes on under these circumstances, and I think you can understand why. Okay, so here is Teresa, and here are the 4 coordinates associated with the 4 judges here. And remember, Alexis is using this analytical dung beetle approach. Russ and Lorraine and Nancy are each using their own approaches, not as formal, but you can see the comparisons there. And Teresa gave a wildcard preview of 3. So in this case, I gave this a 3.25 based on all the data that I had. And then here's Craig. Craig, I sent off a wildcard preview, and I never heard back from you, Craig. You're still here, or did you leave? I don't know if Craig, I saw him here before.
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Did you get my email?
Yeah, I'm still, Marty, I'm still here.
And you just didn't know what to do, or did I miss it?
I thought I was sending it back to you. I was traveling.
Okay.
My phone.
Okay.
I was at the 2.5.
Oh, on this coordinate?
Yes, sir.
Now, got to be careful. Was it the 1.24837?
I don't know. I don't know, Marty.
Okay, and you know what? We didn't use it. Let's ignore it, and that happens. Very often there's stuff like this happens, and you get partial information, and guess what? You go ahead with as much information as you have. And I should say I'm a great believer in this approach because we're getting more information. As a judge, I think more is better. And I even struggled with that because sometimes you want to make it isn't clear that more information is better, but I've come to the conclusion it is. And as a judge, I want as much information as possible, and then I will make some of the decisions based on that.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Back on Teresa's transcript,
Uh-huh.
her wild card 124837 was a CR3.
Right.
That doesn't really mean anything unless the other one is up there. Was that the stronger one or the weaker one?
Yeah, you see, and I've got all that down here. So you're going to see those next.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm jumping the gun. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah. So we'll go through that next. I'm going through this relatively slowly just to make sure everybody understands. Now you look at the next one, and you can see the variations that we get with the same transcript, 4 judges, and that was one of the important observations, that we discovered many years ago, that it's a judgment. The analysis and the judging is a big part of this, and you can look at the differences that you can see here. So here it was 3.25. John's, we got a 4.5 down to a 1.5. Now, one of the things which is interesting here is Lorraine is consistently lower. Whether or not, and I don't know if Lorraine is here, she sort of took into account what she did on the others, which were consistently higher or not. I don't know, and judges do different things, but that's their role, and they get to do what they want. They're a judge.
I'm here, Marty, and I try to do them all very, very objectively.
And independently. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and notice, independently, we managed to get this big of a difference. And we spend times when we have other webinars. We won't do it here, but in other webinars, we would talk about a lot of this stuff. But that's not the purpose of this meeting. But over the long term, it is a purpose to try to understand why we can get these kind of big differences. And in fact, maybe we might want to come back and do that separately and have another webinar or whatever. In fact, I think I wouldn't mind looking at this and talking about it, but I don't want to do it now just because we don't have time. But nevertheless, the main point is, and it's not just here, you can just see it's in other cases too. Everybody, you have outliers. But that's one of the reasons we like the group process. And group process in judging as well as group with viewers. That seems very powerful, a kind of redundancy check here. So in this case, we had a 3.3 or a 3.5, so I made that a 3.25. And just looking at all this, I made this a 4 because we had 3 that were wagerable. Notice again, there's a line here. So we had 3 people that made this one wagerable, and so I felt comfortable making that one a 4. And then here's Deborah's, and I judged this, and I put a bunch of the words that I think were good matches. I always do that. If I had judged all of these, I'd have words on all of them as I go through them, and that helps me then make a group judgment. Lots of times I am the only judge. In fact, most of the time I am the only judge. And so by putting in these kind of words here for each of the viewers, so I have multiple viewers, I then get to look at this as one big transcript, which I find a helpful way of visualizing all of this. Like each of these are giving you information, and if I put them all together, is this the coherent one or is it the other one? So in this case, a 3.5 wildcard preview came from Deborah as a 4, so I made this one a 3.5. I suppose I could have done a 3.75, but again, this stuff isn't linear, but it was definitely wagerable. Now, let's look at the other one, which is even. Notice here, we now have these kind of numbers, 5.5. I think you now understand this, so we can go through it a bit quicker. And I'll get to these numbers a bit later, but you can already see I asked each of the individual judges to give me their independent prediction based on all of the transcripts that they saw. That's what these numbers are. And those were done by the judges independently without seeing all of this. But here for Slory, you can see 3 out of 4 of these were wagerable, but Slory's wild card for this, again, notice it's the other coordinate, he gave that a 2. And he thought this one was the good one, which was a 5. So that's what he did. So you can see we're not getting 100% consistent data. And you want to know something? We rarely get 100 consistent data. And unfortunately, even the few times that we do, they're not even 100% accurate. So we're playing in a kind of a mysterious field here. Okay, so here, 3 out of 4, even though this was a 2, I felt pretty comfortable making that certainly a 4. Here, Alexis got up to a 6.5. Notice all 4 of these are wagerable. Nancy went up to a 6 as well. The wild card preview was a 2. Nevertheless, I felt this ought to be a 5.5. So these are my judgments looking at all of this. Here's Craig's. There was only 1 that was wagerable, and so I gave this a 3. And here we have all 4 of these are wagerable. Alexis was up at a 5.5. The wild card preview was a 5. I made that a 4.5. Okay? And then Deborah, again, I put in all the matches. I looked at that using my judgment. I gave it a CR of a 4. Alexis gave it a 4.5. And then no wild card. Now, one thing which no, wait a second. Yeah, no wild card. Now, there was one column I have not talked about, and all of the judges knew about this column, and everybody here except Rachel knows about BTs. This is the only column we haven't talked about yet, and that's bleed through. That's the bleed through column. Bleed through means, whether we like it or not, I often see, as a judge and the analyst, a very good match with the other coordinate. So in this case, I said that Deborah's transcript actually matched quite well. And let me say this, I didn't mention it here too. Notice in both of her cases, she had bleed-throughs. And I've seen this before with Deborah. She seems to be looking at both. But this 3.5 here under the bleed-through column means that she got a good description with this coordinate on this target. So it's supportive of this target, because how did she get a good description of it? You know, there might be some time she might have done it by chance, or she might have looked at it, even though she wasn't supposed to. That's what this column means. And so I take that into account when I do my judging. So here I gave that a 4. Okay?
Did you want us as judges, if we saw bleed through, to give it to you as a CR?
Yep, I do prefer it, but you know, often the words tell me. I'm lowering this now in case John or anybody comes back, so at least they won't see the pictures. Okay, so yes, Nancy, I would prefer that. You could see what I'm filling out here, and I do it though. You see, I have enough information to do that myself, so I always do the bleed through myself. In fact, when we did judging here, had you given me as a CR, when we do group judging like this with multiple judges, yes. Next time we do this, I'll specifically ask for that, for a bleed through.
Okay.
I didn't want, you know, there were some new people who were, or I thought there might be some new people, so I just didn't emphasize that. Okay.
You did ask for it, Marty.
I did not.
You did.
What? Did I actually say it? Okay.
Yes, yeah. I said that I didn't have any.
Okay.
When I replied. You did specifically ask.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Yeah, maybe I said in one of the later emails or something. Well, I'm sure I did. You saw it.
I just want to say how cool it is that up in this, the column that, I mean, it's a row that starts at, it's row number 482. Over in column I, how close those CRs are right there as a clump. And on the other one, too, I just think that's amazing that they're not further apart than that.
Well, that's right. And here, this is, and you know, this is not going to be too marginal, is it? Because if we look at these, the highest is a 3.5. And so it doesn't seem like it would make sense to give that a 3.5. I mean, what do you think? What would be reasonable for the 834027? A 3?
A 3.
Well, I would say that.
Yeah, okay. So a 3, I mean, you know, I don't think we're going to quibble too much, but it's hard to see giving it a 3.5 unless your logic is to give it the highest. And some people might say, well, maybe you want to give it the highest. I actually gave it a 3.5, which turned out to be one of the highest, but it was marginal. And I have to admit something to all of you, and I think all the judges, whether they like it or not, have to accept this. I had a lot of information here already. I didn't mind giving it a 3.5 because I knew it wouldn't be the determining factor. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And whether I like it or not, I know that that was in me. and I think that's in me as a judge, as hard as I try to be unbiased and all that. Okay, so now, what about this one?
I think that's so tight. That's so tight.
But I mean, you know, I don't care what number you come up with, it's going to be pretty good. So go ahead. You guys, what do you want to do? Call them out.
0.25.
4.25? Yeah, I agree with 0.25.
With 4.25?
Yeah.
Anybody think higher?
It's in the fours.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
4.25. We're happy with that. So then, what I put here is 4.253. So we have now made a prediction for even.
But wait, can we just look at real quick one more time? Just scan through the wild cards one more time. just to make sure it all lines up. I think it does.
Well, not quite, because the only thing, there are a few contradictions. It's not perfect.
Okay.
Here's a 5 on odd. No, but that's a good question and typical. Here's a 5 on odd. In fact, you gave this one a 4, and I don't know if that was your highest, because that is one of the reasonable, yeah, see, and that was your highest. So if all I had was Nancy, and in fact, if all we did was look at Nancy and Slurry, especially since Slurry did a 5 here, so if that's all you had, you would go the other way.
Maybe. I
Well.
don't know what I would do. I'm pretty spacey.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying, and this is why, you know, the information is just not perfect. Precognition is not perfect, yet it clearly is
I
around.
don't know that because there's a 5 wild card, a wild card with a CR5. Oh, I see. It's for the. Okay, excuse me. I was thinking it was for. It was.
Yeah, no, that's why I put it up here. So it's supportive of odd.
This one. Okay.
But I think that may be, well, Alexis had a 4.5 here. But anyway, doing all of this, yes, there's certainly noise, but the consensus, for better or worse, is even. Okay, any other?
I think I would have gone even because of the other transcripts. Teresa had given a 6 on that even, so I mean, if I had to do it by myself, I think I would have gone evens as well.
Well, that's right. If you also had that transcript, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we like multiple transcripts as well. Okay. I mean, that's it. Now what I would do is send out to the viewers a prediction for, and I'm going to write it down here very simply, for even. So even is our prediction, right? And then we go off and find out what the odds and everything are. And did anybody come back? Did John come back? Those guys are not back. Okay, does everybody, any questions or anything like that before I actually go into now the wagering? No questions? You're all reasonably comfortable. Okay. So
Can you
let's
wager on any of the wager websites, or does it have to be through ESPN, or how does that happen?
Well, that's what I want to start talking about. I wasn't real happy with all of this, you know, all of the stuff I do, the offshore, not living in Las Vegas. I have to use offshore accounts, and I have like 4 of them, but only one of them that I use regularly, or actually 2 of them. Someone else is. Kathy, are you here? Catherine? No, she didn't join us. But she uses another one, and we're sort of partners in that one, Bovada. But Bovada and this one, BetUs.com, are the only 2 that had this saddlecloth one. So they had a very wide range of Kentucky Derby futures, including what all of them had, which I think if I do this next year, I'll probably try to come up with a way to do that, because they all had horses, one horse against another horse. You know, the Kentucky Derby is the only horse race that has 20 horses in it. Most of the others limit it. What is it, the 12 or 15? Teresa, do you remember? Is Teresa not here? Anyway, most of them have less than 20, but the Kentucky Derby actually has 20. But right here, there is, and let me see if I'm still live. Yep, I am. So right here with Bet Us, we have the going odds. So this is real time. We have the going odds on the saddlecloth odd versus even. And this is interesting because odd is actually favored. I thought Tom told me earlier even was favored, so that might have changed. These are dynamic odds. The odds makers based on how the betting goes, also based on which horses are scratched. Obviously, if the favorite horses are all the odd horses, and that may be what's going on here, you would expect that the odds would favor the favorites that have an odd number. But anyway, for this saddlecloth, it's even. And so I can show you an example of how to bet. Now, are there any more questions about the wagering? So, Nancy, I wasn't happy that this wasn't as widespread as I thought. Tom was the one who pointed out to me this bet, and it just seemed like a perfect one to do as examples. I think, you know, this is a kind of a onesie, odd, even thing. But then I went to where I was, and this was the only one I found. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wager. I feel pretty comfortable with this, and what this will allow me to do is risk, I'm going to risk $100 on even. Now notice when I don't know if all of you know these American odds, but the fact that I'm willing to risk $100 and all I win is 55. Did I do that right? Yeah. Yeah. Even. If this was, usually if it's a 50-50 bet, this is like minus 110, and this will be minus 110. And if you risk 110, this comes out to be 100. I want to show you what the 180 means. If I were willing to bet $180, I would win 100. Okay? Do you see that? For those of you who don't understand how the offshore, actually if you go to Las Vegas, this is the way the numbers would show there as well. So if when this is a minus, this means, yeah, so I said that wrong. I apologize. Even is the one that most people are betting on. So even is the favorite, which is what Tom said. Because if I were to bet here on the 150, let's see if I can do that. I want to go back. I want you to understand this, and I want this to be clear. Okay, let me get back. How do I get back to where I was? I'm sorry for this. I know this is getting a little confusing for you. Let me go back to horse racing. Okay, what's happening now? Horse racing, Kentucky Derby. I don't want any of those. Let's go to Racebook. I don't usually do the horse racing, so I'm not as adept at this one. How did I find that? I wonder if I went to it from here. You'd think they'd have, I think I just found Kentucky Derby. Oh, brother. Anybody else know this thing here that can... Let's try horse racing. Horse racing. Daily Horse Breeders' Cup. Huh. You'd think Kentucky Derby would be the real big one now, wouldn't you? Triple Crown. Maybe I've got it here. Kentucky Derby Racing. Live. Am I still logged in? Guys, I am sorry. Kentucky Derby, no live lines. I can't even get back to where I was.
Yeah, and that says 2011.
I'm sorry, say that again, Alexis?
It's saying it's 2011, and I don't see 2013.
Yeah, so why? Yeah. I believe I'm still logged in. Here's Racebook. I think before I went straight to Kentucky Derby, and that's where that thing, that's where I was able to find that. Betting strategy, so I need to find it again. Oh. Boy, this is going to be terrible on the webinar. Maybe I'll delete all this if I can find it.
Can I ask a question since I went away as a viewer?
Yeah.
Is the prediction that the winning saddlecloth will be even?
Odd.
The winning
No,
saddlecloth-
I'm sorry. God, see, I'm really getting, you know, the word verstummeled. It was even,
Okay.
which is apparently the favorite direction. But I had it, and I have now lost the.
Was it a strong prediction, would you say, or?
Yes, it was pretty strong. It was
Unfortunately, my sports book will only accept the saddlecloth of the last place horse, believe it or not.
Yeah, I had that as an option here too. But I can't even find this again. So wait, I am really very frustrated right now. You know what? I'm gonna start over. Because okay, so now the Kentucky Derby. So it should be, it isn't to win. Well, let's see what happens if I do this. God, I can't. Well, we know what it is. Churchill Downs.
Churchill Downs is it.
Yeah,
This is
I know.
Rachel.
Hey,
Okay.
Rachel. But I can't
I'm sorry, I was
find
on
the
mute. I was
saddle.
trying to
I
think.
can't. I'm trying to find the saddle sheet,
Oh, okay.
and I can't find it, and it is really frustrating. I had it in front of me, and then I stupidly, in retrospect, went to try to show something else about what would have happened if you bet even. Odd. Okay. Well, I may not be able to place a bet, but we certainly know it came out even. And it was a, what was it? It was 3 versus 4.5, John.
Okay.
4.25.
Mm-hmm.
And so the even was 4.25. And we still have 20 minutes to post time.
Yeah.
So go ahead, ask questions and everything while I
was just going to say, maybe they took the bet away from your Bet Us. I don't even have that bet on my sports book. Like I say, it's only the last.
Yeah, well, we were
maybe
looking
they took
at
it away.
It's
Yeah,
possible.
it filled up. Possibly it filled up and they took it away.
Well, possible.
No.
But, oh, here's Kentucky Derby. And it does say 2011. That is very strange. So that's obviously an old one. Past winners. Okay, let's go to... Okay, they're on race 5. It may come up also blackjack. Okay. Yeah, see, this is race 5. Why won't it let me go? Teresa, you wager on that. Why won't it let me go just to the Kentucky Derby race, which I think is race 9?
I don't wager. Lorraine, do you ever use Bet Us? Lorraine would be your best bet, probably.
Yeah.
Marty, I don't know anything about it. I only ever use Betfair, really.
Okay.
Over here, that's a site
Turns
that's
out-
only in UK.
I went to Twin Spires. Okay, well let's see if we can look at the race. I don't have to wager. It's not that big a deal for me. But we do know what the prediction is. The prediction is clearly even. And what we are looking at now is from Twin Spires, which is legal. You know, in the United States, it's legal to wager on horse races in most states. Teresa, can you do horse racing legally in your state? I know you have.
Not in Missouri.
Not in Missouri, you can't even race on horses. Well, in California and most other states in the U.S., you can get an online account with someone like Twin Spires and gamble legally, wager legally. But they also did not have the saddle cloth odd even. Now, what I am on here is a Kentucky Derby race only, and I think this happens to be when the race comes on, we're going to be able to actually see it live. It was scheduled to go on at 3:24. So now let's see. So are these the Kentucky Derby horses, those of you who are following this, are these the horses, Teresa? You were looking at the race.
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. So I can, who was the one that you said you think you and, well, you got a different horse than Tom and Lorraine, right? Tom and
Right.
Lorraine agreed. What horse did they agree on?
Palace Malice.
Yeah.
Which one?
Palace Malice. Or Malice Palace. It was number... What was it?
How come
Number 10.
Oh, okay. So
Yes, number
it
10.
is even. That's good. Now,
I made 3 picks and they're all even.
are they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's sort of cool. So that means betting on
I did 2 sessions, Marty,
Okay.
so I could confirm the first session.
Interesting. So that also is more. See, now that is kind of really interesting. Can you bet on even where you are in Great Britain?
No, but I can do each way bets. So I've bet all of my 3, each of them to win, but also each of them each way. So I get a
Okay.
payout if they come second, or if I don't think you have each way in the States.
Like
Tell
a
me-
box.
Yeah. I guess I missed that. I was too busy seeing if I could wager. Tell me what each way is. You might as well educate me.
When you pay, well, basically you bet twice as much, but you've only actually lay half that amount on it to win. The other half is a half payout if the horse comes second.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's called an each way bet because you get a payout whether it's first or second.
Okay, but it's a little different
Either
than
way,
just a.
you
It's
get
a
a
little
payout.
different than just a place bet.
Well, place, I'm not sure what.
A place
Okay.
bet is you win if it's first or second. Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, of course. So an each way bet would be first, second, or third.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm confusing myself now. Yeah.
So
that's
it
right.
looks like I cannot wager here. Let's see if I
Marty,
have.
do you have a 5 Dimes account? I just found it in 5 Dimes.
Oh, and they have saddlecloth?
It says saddlecloth of winning horse odd or saddlecloth of winning horse even.
Oh, okay.
19 horse
So you can do, and what are the odds on,
even is negative 190.
okay, and we were,
Plus 165.
okay, plus, okay, and we were minus 180. So the different places are a little different, or it might have changed.
Yeah,
So
mine too.
190 means if you bet 190, you get 100 back. The 160 mean plus 160 means that if you put 100 down, you'll get 160 back, plus your original bet, of course, in both cases. So the minus is the favorite side. Okay, wait. Now I am getting from the TV words now. Okay, so they're beginning to introduce the Kentucky Derby. So, okay, very good. Okay, now I am hearing words. I'm hearing a guy talking. Are you guys hearing that or not?
Can you copy and paste the link?
Okay,
Or
so
is
you
that
don't
only-
hear anything from there. Okay, you do see what's going on live.
Yes.
Okay, but you don't, you can't hear. Okay. Sorry about that. You might have other places. I also was trying to see if ESPN. So this is now, they're getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. So they just sort of introduced, so there are the horses now. Look like they're going, yeah, 324, so that makes sense. Okay. Now I also have, that won't be useful. I was doing other things I thought. That was very frustrating. Okay, well this will be good to watch. I was wondering if Oh, see, now they're playing a, if ESPN might have it live. Because you guys might want to, you might be able to find it live where you can hear the announcing too. But let me just see if,
Teresa?
Yes.
okay. If you guys go to this ESPN, you'll be able to hear it yourself live.
Oh, it's down low. Okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
keep scrolling. This is a long scroll.
It is. I'm way down at the bottom. I don't see it. Oh well.
Okay, I'm going to turn my Twin Spires one off. Let me just make sure. There's Twin Spires. Right, ESPN definitely has it, so. Okay. Okay, now I can wager though. Lorraine, what was the number?
Number 10.
Yes.
Do you remember the number of your horse?
10.
Number 10.
10.
Oh, maybe it'll say here. Was it Palace Malice?
Yes.
Okay. Turns out I still have some money left in this account too. So it was Palace Malice, huh?
Yes.
We went back to number 11.
Okay, so
They're such oddball bets. This one's winning horses. Starts with an A through F.
why are we watching this now? Why am I at Hoosier Park? Are you guys seeing the right one or not?
No.
Somebody was just looking
Guys,
on
tell me
fire.
what's going on here. I'm not.
This is Rachel. They're still parading the horses around. I'm seeing it on my TV right now.
He's raced in 4 different countries, including Dubai, where he won the.
They're showing horse number 12, if that's helpful. So they still got a little ways to go.
Wait, okay, Rachel, tell me, you obviously know more about this than I do.
I know very little about it.
About the horse racing.
I know enough to be dangerous. They're parading the horses around right now. They're showing horse number 13, 14, and so they're still walking them up to the, I think it's called the post.
I see.
So if you're still trying to make a bet, I think you still have a minute or two, maybe 3,
Yeah,
do
I
that.
I did place a bet, but I'm having trouble, and I placed it, Lorraine, on horse number 10.
Yes.
Yes, Palace
Okay.
Malice.
See, they're talking, but I'm having trouble now getting to where I was on ESPN and seeing things.
Yeah.
And let me just see why that is true.
I posted a link on the chat.
You posted the right link?
The one that you had that was working.
Okay. But okay, wait. I'm going to try to start all over again. Wait. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Now let me just see if this link works. The link I put there. ESPN horse racing. Okay, you're seeing my screen. Now why is Twin Spires coming up?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, it is. Oh, I wonder. You know, I was seeing it before. Are you guys able to get it or not? Are you seeing the race? Any of you?
This is Rachel. I just have it on TV. I'm not going to mess with my computer because I'm afraid
Okay,
I'm
you
gonna
have it
freak
on
out.
TV.
I'm going to go watch it on TV, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
And
screen's too low.
I had it. Boy, oh boy, I tell you, when it comes to this horse race, Tom used to stay with me, and he would handle all this stuff. And you can now see why. Those of you who go back to the horse racing days. Okay, I better go back to Twin Spires because I'd like to watch it here, and at least we'll get to watch it.
I'm going to go find my mint julep. I'll be back after the race.
Yeah, okay. We'll all watch the race, and we'll see what happens here. Right. And then come on back here, and we'll do feedback. Am I logged in? I'm not sure I'm logged in.
Are you logging into ESPN?
No, I couldn't get it. I don't have an ESPN account,
Oh.
but I do have a, at least I can listen to it online, and I had it, and then I got rid of it. I just tell you, I can't tell you how poor. Are you watching it on TV?
Yeah, we're going to as soon as...
I've really handled this poorly. Before I put these...
Sorry, this is Chris. I sent you a link on NBC. It's pretty crisp and clear.
Oh, and it's live?
Well, look in the chat box. I gave you a link
Yeah,
there.
I see it.
Yeah,
I
it's
just clicked
live.
on it. Okay.
Try to grab that and...
Yeah, I just clicked on it.
paste
Yeah, I just clicked on it. Thank you.
Because I was getting good, clear pictures there.
Okay, here it's coming up now. Hopefully. There we go. Okay, so I got a commercial, and then presumably I'll get it. Okay, the race should just be just about starting. Is this what you're seeing too, Chris? Coverage will resume shortly.
It's
Yeah,
on
it
TV.
is.
It's
Let
still
me go back
commercial.
to your page.
Still commercial, yeah, on TV.
Oh,
Different
okay.
commercial.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So at least we'll have the race. Go even. I like to think of these now as two teams, odd versus even. What we really care about is that the even team win. Oh, so I can just swap. This is the one I want, right? So this is what you guys are seeing?
Yes, yes. That's
Okay.
good.
Who's this guy? See somebody, one of the owners of one of the horses or something?
He does not look happy, though. Whoever he is.
I'm just surprised there's no nobody saying anything about him. They were 100
Maybe he's
million.
random guy number 5 in the crowd.
100 million people are looking at him. You better not
That's
pick
right.
him. No.
Oh,
Well, I can
there's
tell you it's not Rick Pitino.
Okay.
announcers talking now on the TV.
Okay, now what am I seeing on the little screen? Do you guys see this little screen too?
Number 6 horse, or no, it looks like a commercial or something.
It says swap. I don't know which one to watch. Oh, that says grandstand. This says main camera. Maybe I'll go to the main camera. It's a commercial though, but on TV, were you seeing that guy, or you must not be seeing
No.
that guy?
On TV, we were
They're
just...
announcing the horses now. They have a list of all the
Yeah.
horses up on the TV.
Okay. Here we go.
On a less track was sensational. Speaking with Calvin earlier this week, his concern wasn't that he wouldn't run inside horses. He's concerned with moving the starting gate with the rest of the pack. He didn't do that in Louisiana. You can ill afford to give up 3 or 4 easy leads early in the race. So Orb, who was the morning line favorite, seeing the late money come in, he is the co-favorite. He has no form to which to tell if he likes it or not, but his action and his breeds.
Wow. And we're down here at Palace Malice. Orbis, okay. That's interesting. Revolutionary would not be good for us.
The writer for Oxbow is from Caldwell, Idaho.
Verrazano's 14.
Do all these horses have unique colors so you could bet on a color?
Oh, that's interesting.
Did you get a strong color in your visual?
No, I mean, I'm pretty good with colors, so, and I've never done the horses, and I know Tom and Marty have done a lot of horses, and if you can have a unique color for each horse, I might give it a try.
How do they come up with 20 different colors? I mean,
Well, maybe they aren't for this derby, but for, for regular races, because it looked
Yeah.
like there were unique colors on the screen for some of the horses.
mhm. Yeah, I think that's where these, on my screen, they're walking towards, I think, towards the gate.
And Orb and the Candy Colors. The Dogwood Stables Colors aboard Mike Smith and Palace Malice. We'll take charge. The oldest jockey in the race, John Court, 52 years old aboard.
Yeah, I guess the webinar will not be hearing this, so I probably should summarize some of it.
The golden sets. It's the 139th running of the Kentucky Derby. The purse is $2 million. The distance is 1.25 miles. It's for 3-year-olds, all of whom carry 126 pounds. And for the call of the Derby, let's go to Larry Coleman. Thank you very much, Tom Allen.
Here comes the call.
That is Mike Jack, Garrett Gomez, pick up the outside stall, 19-year-olds and a minor reporter. And Mike Jack is in, and they're all in line.
What do you mean by the call? See, maybe I'm
There
not.
you go. They're off. They're off.
Oh, I'm not watching it live then. Okay, why don't you call it out? So this is.
I'll try to turn up the volume.
And Alice Malice is right up there, too, in the early mix as well. Then it's off over the inside. Mike Jack is on the far outside. In behind them comes...
We're seeing it delayed, unfortunately.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
First turn. And then it's on part of that four Bradline. Lines of battle is right there to the outside of horses.
Yeah.
And then comes Ford.
Well, we'll have it here. You can just tell me what happens. I'm going to have to edit this webinar, and we won't get to see it, but...
A 45.5 mile. An extremely fast pace set by Palace Malice and Mike Smith.
Palace Malice leading.
Oh, I do hear it.
Verrazano is 3 lengths behind, running in second. Mike Jack, Oxbow and Gary Stevens are on the rails. And Kevin Ritter has golden sets off the pace today. He's fifth as they move for the far turn. Then Normandy Invasion, followed by It's My Lucky Day. Down toward the inside is Charming Kitten. After that comes Giant Finish. Nothing after an Orb. He's still about 15th, but he begins to move up on the far outside. Alice Malice is the leader. He's set a torrid pace so far, and the pack is catching up quickly. Through on the inside is Oxbow, and Normandy Invasion is storming home, and they're into the stretch. And Normandy Invasion. This is Indicate, ESPN Thoroughbred Racing Podcast. Orb is coming with
Orb. Wow.
and here comes Orb on the outside. Now to take the lead as they come over the 16th pole. Here's Orb in front. The Normandy Invasion, wide loop, and Golden Soul between horses. Down to the wire. Orb has won the Kentucky Derby.
And was Orb even?
Yeah, Orb won.
Okay!
Turn it down, Mr. Will.
They're doing this late. I wanted to hear it. Let me see if I can get it to play on NBC Sports late, but then I'll have it on the webinar. Okay, so we won. Ugh. I'm going to have to edit this before we do anything with the webinar. But even won, right?
I guess. What was Orb's number?
16.
Okay.
I won $2. That's all I had in my account. My $5. Anybody else win? Bet and win?
Okay, so I didn't get any of it on the webinar, but that's the breaks. But we did get, okay. They'll probably replay some of it. Okay, so number 16 won, so we won.
All right.
Let me see if I can get, very good. Congratulations, all of us. Lorraine, I don't know, where did your horse come in?
It fell back. I think she's off. I think she said it was the middle of the ninth here. So.
Oh, yeah, okay. So did yours come in, Teresa?
No, it didn't.
Okay. See, that's the problem I've always found with horse racing. Though maybe it's good because psychologically you have to know that most of the time you're not going to win. You just want to go for the edge. But here we did a 50 and we won very nicely.
And Russ is typing that Orb was his first pick. Okay.
Whose was his first pick?
Russ.
Oh, really, Russ? Did you wager? Russ, were you able to wager? Oh, Russ is gone. Is Russ gone too?
I don't
He
know.
says no. He didn't wager.
Okay. Oh, that's right. He doesn't have. Okay, so now, okay, let's continue our normal approach. Okay, so I still hear your TV in the background, John. Why don't you make it a little lower?
I'll get out of here.
Well, yeah, I want you to stay though.
Well, I don't want to see the other photo, so
Oh, okay.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay, take care. Too late. He probably already saw this. And now this is typically of what I do. Okay, we now have the group prediction. I hadn't put odd there. I thought I did, but anyway, the group prediction was odd.
It's even.
The group prediction was even. Thank you. God. And the actual was a hit. And the actual outcome was number
16.
16. Why don't we put the orb? And I'm even going to put a happy face here, which I don't usually do, but why not, right? So, and so that, then what I do is I go back and I take this one, and John is right, he likes not to be front-loaded in any way. I used to get rid of these because I didn't like it even to be around at all to try to minimize displacement, but now I make it very small because the database, Tom Atwater, wants to keep all the data, so we're even keeping both IPSs. So they'll be in the database, and so I'm keeping them here until he can convert it to his database. And this is the even, and we got a very nice, clean, really nice. And so then what I do is I go back to my email to the viewers, and I'll send this back to the viewers, and ask them to do their feedback session and give me back the CRs. Because what I found is that by getting people to look carefully at the feedback, I believe is helpful, because it kind of forces you to think through what confidence ranking you want. But I also want you to do this at the subconscious level and do a whole feedback session to really get into this. One of the other things which I found in the transcripts and also in the judging was that people went inside this airplane, because having this as a target, you know what's inside airplanes. And I found that very interesting. A lot of the transcripts were discussing stuff that was inside. Multiple people. Alexis and I had a discussion about headrests, which I thought was pretty interesting. But there was a lot of that. So it wasn't just descriptions of motion and the airplane. And when you go back and do your feedback session, it's really good to notice all that stuff and circle it. So, first of all, really, as part of feedback, we should be feeling really happy now. Guys, we did really well. And we're involved in such cutting-edge, mysterious stuff. I find I can enjoy most things. The hardest thing to enjoy, of course, is the misses. And putting that in context is one of the challenges. And I really believe that's an important challenge which each of us has to take on. You know, after feeling the emotion of a miss, which I think we all have some unhappiness with. I certainly know I do. But then how you handle it, how you put it in context, and how you learn from it. You can learn from hits as well as misses. And sometimes you learn more from misses than you do hits by figuring out what it was that might have gone wrong. And sometimes you can actually identify it. For example, you know you might have rushed a session. There might be something else going on in your life that upset you that was still with you. You didn't do a good enough cool down. But notice this is only for you when you have misses. This isn't for anybody else. It's to improve yourself. So it's for you to learn and be honest with yourself. Anybody else want to comment on this feedback phase? Because it is so critical. It all begins at feedback. And we as judges, and there may be still a viewer or two left, but judges should do feedback sessions as well. And we're kind of doing a judge's feedback session now. And this was a very clean one. It was what I would consider to be a typical good hit, in that there was some contradictory evidence. I mean, even here we had two wagerables. On this side we had two wagerables. Nevertheless, as an analyst and judge, you know, most, in fact, except, well, no, there were two of us that even said this was wagerable. But when you compare it with the other, and this is the beauty of one ARV, is you do have both sides. You know only one is going to win, and it was pretty clear that this was the side to go with because the viewers definitely did better on this side. And the other side, you could say, was due to partially chance matches. And then the other is that we know viewers have access to everything. I mean, there's nothing better than precognition and the kind of displacement that we see over and over that's well known in ARV in general and one ARV in particular, where viewers get very good descriptions of the other target. To know that they have access to that. And it's up to the viewers to work to minimize that, make that a very clear part of their intention. And also, I think, up to judges to try to minimize making that information available. Now, frankly, I don't think we can make it zero, but I think keeping emotion down on anything to do with either of the targets while you're judging helps. Anybody else want to talk about that? I mean, I think feedback is so important. Anybody else want to comment?
For can you scroll up a bit?
Yeah.
Now we know from the TARG scale that a CR of 2 represents chance, and anything above 2 is supposedly above chance.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
So any of these scores that we put as judges that is above 2, we can say that our judgment was wrong. Or it's based off the chance. Do you kind of understand?
Yeah, or it's based on chance. I think, and that's, I believe that topic is worth discussing, because some people, and again, I believe judges, just like viewers, should always keep their own stats and keep track of things, and all of that is very important because you get to learn by looking at your history. We spend a lot of our time looking forward, but I do believe history matters. Because let's say, in your case, Alexis, with your system, you found that they were really consistently high, quite high. For the one that misses. Okay? Let's say you got 3s and 4s and some 5s consistently. I do believe then, now this would be consistently, I do believe then that you could say, you know what, I am probably judging too liberally. And that might be true of, like I'm looking at Nancy here, okay? You still here, Nancy?
Yep, I'm here.
Notice 1, 2, 3 of yours are quite high on the other side. Does that
And then
say
the lowest score on one of them, so it actually averaged it out, didn't it?
right? But here you also got a 6. But you see what I'm saying? What
Yeah.
my point? I'm just using you as an example because you were the
Right.
obvious one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anybody else like that. No, well, Alexis got a 4.5 here, but but again, one case doesn't mean anything. This is where you really do bring in the sort of the logical mind and trying to figure this out, and that's part of what we're doing. I think the ultimate paradigm is going to have a balance between the intellect and the intuitive. But notice if you were to see this over and over and over again in your GM judging work, that even the other side had pretty high ones, you might want to go back and look, are you being too liberal? Are you stretching? That would be an indicator of stretching it. And none of us know exactly where that line is, but maybe, and I want you to know this is the first time I've ever actually had this discussion out loud and thought about this, but that might be how you could define stretching in a logical fashion. So, Alexis, that was really, you understand what I said?
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, the issue I think you were getting at is if these were high, that ought to be telling us something. And I think what it's telling us, if it's high, again, consistently, not any one time, because there is chance elements as well. But if it happens consistently over and over and over again, that you're getting high numbers on the miss side, then I would say you're being too liberal.
Or it could mean that the CR ranking of 2 is too low, and that the actual chance level might be CR of 3.
No, in my opinion, because we're defining 2 as the chance level, and we have to end off being consistent with that. In other words, the ideal situation, though I have to tell you, this comes pretty close, but I guess the ideal situation would be if this was 2-ish.
Right, right.
And 3 is not too bad. I mean, really, think about it.
Not too bad, right.
You know, you don't expect, again, because of this chance variation, and we live in a real world and all those sorts of things, but the ideal situation would be if you did 100 of these and you looked at all 100 of the misses, if this would come out to be 2-ish.
I see, I see.
And then our job as viewers is to, as time goes on and we get better and better, to get these numbers to be 5-ish and then even 6 and 7-ish. Right? I mean, I believe we're going to just continue to get better and better at this.
You know, Marty, having such tight, look at the even, 4.5, 4, 4.9, 4, 4. Nobody was out of the 4s.
I know.
That is, and we didn't have any conversation together.
I know.
And I'm a little nervous when I first look at these thinking, oh, I hope I'm not way off and everybody else is in a tight cluster. And I think that maybe when we talk about it, well, gosh, I really saw this. Did you see that? That can pull us apart. This is the first instinctive snap. There it is.
That's
and
right.
All in 4s. It just seems. I think that's amazing. I think that was really cool that worked like that.
I do too. And the fact that these were so tight and all of them were above the same level really gave me confidence in this. In fact. And I don't know, again, we need to keep records. This is why long-term databasing is so important. Imagine if when you had something tight like this, when they're all wagerable, that circumstance itself had you up at the 80-90% level. You might really want to give this a 5. In other words, that fact might be unambiguous, you know, at the 90% level. And we may discover that sort of thing if we do enough multiple judging. We don't.
Yes, and it may be that trumps wildcard previews or all these other little tricks that we can pull.
That's right. In fact, let's look at wildcard preview here. Wildcard preview, we had one very good one. Yeah, this is my comment on the BT. And we had one, I guess, poor one. So in terms of the benefits of wildcard preview, this is certainly doesn't support it.
Right.
We have lots of other data, and that's one of the things we hope to get out of the database that does support it.
Uh-huh.
Though we have to be a little bit careful. It doesn't support it standing alone. This is a wildcard preview protocol, so the outcome, now it may be just doing the wildcard preview adds something to the protocol in a way, which helped. You know, it isn't clear to me that the wildcard protocol didn't help in some way causing this to be tight. I mean, we just don't know. We're right at the cutting edge of mystery here, which is so much fun.
It is.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to send out the email. You're certainly welcome. Who else? Okay. Teresa, what did you think about all this?
Well, interesting, since, you know, I'm trying to just kind of pick up on what y'all have been doing. I'm a little bit unclear because I don't ever see this, because I don't ever judge. So for me, this is all kind of new, as a group judging anyway. But when you've got this wildcard preview with the 834027, is that the number that I gave you for that coordinate based on the wildcard that only I saw?
Correct. In other words, for this one, you gave me for 124837 a confidence ranking of 3.
Okay, so in this case, I thought that was going to be the wild card.
Well, let me see what you did for the other at the level of 3. And then you gave me a 2, yes. So you're right. The highest one you gave me would have supported odd. In other words, if all I did was look at the highest. But the fact that it wasn't strong, I didn't take it particularly into account. What I do like to see are good matches. Now, what I ought to do, in fact, funny enough, I did do this. Slory is not here, right? I actually think I have, nope, it looks like I got rid of it. But I could go back, and Slory ought to go back, and he or she is new enough to see if I really believe it's a 5. I don't know if they know about unambiguous and all that kind of stuff. And so it may be that the only real high number was John's, which was correct. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I should go look at that transcript and see if I believe it was a 5, and talk to Slory about it. That would be a way of educating. So but maybe I'll try to find time to do that. Anybody else? Craig, how about you? What did you think about all this? Oh, I see your, oh yeah, there you are. Yeah.
It's a good learning experience. The question I have, Marty,
Uh-huh.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Is why wouldn't the viewers want to stay around and, like John and Teresa, you're still here, why wouldn't you want to stay around and see the photos?
Photo sites.
To the judging?
The reason is the number one problem in 1ARV, in associative remote viewing, is what's called displacement. And that would be when this picture, okay, which they would have seen full size earlier, gets a really good description because it then gets a high ranking. Now in this case, we did have, what, a 4.5, I gave Deborah a 4. Nancy gave Teresa a 4. I don't know if Teresa, did you see it?
I briefly saw it, but I didn't pay any attention to it.
Exactly. But even her briefly seeing it, someone could say, aha, that was an open channel that caused her to get it, do such a good job, at least as judged by Nancy.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the logic. Some people don't believe that logic, and they're willing to look at both. My point of view is, why even open the channel? If a person does get a really good score on that, I would like to know that it could not have come from them seeing it directly, and that they did it by some other channel, namely probably picking it up from one of the judges who did see it.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, that's the logic. So the judge puts it down in the, I call it a universe of collective consciousness, and that's where the person picked it up.
Okay, that explains it. Thank you, Marty. This is great. I'm still learning, and yeah, I love this. This is great.
Well, yeah, stay with us, please.
I'm going to, yes.
Yeah, so it's good.
I just wish I'd been a little proactive and bet.
Well, yeah, it turned out I didn't get to bet either. In fact, I only bet and lost. I bet on the horse, not on odd even, because I blew it. But yeah, the horse racing is obviously a bit harder in terms of the sports. The major sports, you know, the baseball, football, soccer, all those it's real easy to bet and wager.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, any other comments? No. Oh, please do. Dave, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you for a long time. How you doing, guy? You here? No. Okay. Well, then I think what I will do, and you guys can just, if you're welcome to watch, the next step is to find the email I sent out to all the viewers.
Marty, Dave says he doesn't have a mic, but he is here.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Hi, Dave. Hey, we got ourselves a nice hit.
See you guys.
Okay, yeah. Take care. Well, maybe, you know what? Maybe instead of doing that, let me just go over. I do have just a couple more view graphs, slides, and it basically comes down to summarizing what I think is the bigger picture here of what's important. And that really has to do with the mindset of everybody involved. I believe that for us to get to this next level, to get to the 80% level, which is an 80% hit rate is the level that I've sort of established for my next goal, for all of us, is going to be at the level of mindset, at the level of taking the fact that we do have the personal journey, and yet we're within a group, and integrating all of that with us. I mean, we know for sure that we can communicate with each other. That both causes a problem, but I think it also opens up the great opportunity of supporting us getting to this 80% level, increasing the support level of having each of us individually just focus on the target associated with that coordinate. And it's getting into that right mindset, paying attention to what your subconscious is providing. This is ultimately your journey, all of your consciousness moments. And I think it's this kind of mindset that's the key. Being optimistic, being grateful, grateful I've come to appreciate more and more over the years, because when you're grateful, what are you being grateful about? What are you being grateful to? And it's this gratefulness, being grateful to something kind of bigger than your intellect, ego, physical self. The fact that you've got this communication with the subconscious. I mean, that's wonderful. And that is kind of a loving thing. Don't you believe that'll help to enjoy all this, to take as the most positive attitude that you can imagine? Well, that's the place where I think each of us needs to be working. I think that's even more important than the wild card protocol itself, if you'll forgive me, Nancy. I think the protocol is a structure that is very, very important. You want to feel very comfortable with it. We obviously want to make it as easy as possible to get the hit rate up, and one that you can feel as good about. But there's more than one way to get there, and I am sure different people will get to this 80% level in different ways. But I believe one of the things which is going to be common is this mindset. And so I really believe this is a self-actualization kind of process. It's realizing that we are connected to everything, that we have this connection with the infinite. You know, you get very close to talking spiritual terms, that you're connected to God and all those kinds of things. But that seems to be true. How can you get information from the future? It's not your ego self that's doing it. It's something else that you are indeed connected to, your subconscious, higher self, whatever word you want to use. That's the self-realization process, and you're the ones who are doing it. You know, who are you going to ask? Ask your own self, ask your own ask your own subconscious. There isn't anybody else that's really going to give you the answers. And a great philosopher, a Christian philosopher, I don't know a whole lot of details about him, but I've heard enough of his name, and I came up with this great quote. He puts it really strongly. Our duty as men and women is to proceed as if limits to our ability did not exist. We are collaborators in creation. That's cool. That's cool. And I really believe that is what's going on. Precognition shows that we can gather information from what we call the future. But I believe the best model is that it's all now, and we're creating it, and it exists. And that apparent contradiction is the beauty of it all, that somehow makes it all work. It seems like it's an intellectual contradiction, and I know a lot of people have trouble with the free will issue here intellectually, and that's sort of part of putting it all together. But that's the kind of world we live in. We live in a world where we are creating the universe of collective consciousness collectively, and we all seem to have access to it all. Okay, that's it for the formal presentation. The next thing I'm going to do, and maybe we should just end it, there's no reason for you all to watch, is to send off the feedback. So anybody else want to make comments?
Oh, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we may very well be done. And it was great. I really enjoyed it, as I think, as all of you know, I'm doing this with all of these as much as I can muster, and I keep working more and more. I mean, I'm on the same journey as you guys are. Okay, and we'll call that the precog journey. Keep precogging, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye now.